Hello there, I think this is now day 12 of trying to become a famous author. It's a pretty cold one today, so I got my hot water bottle on deck. If you haven't got yours, grab one now. I think this is a good time. It's definitely getting chillier here. We had snow in Edinburgh for the first time, I think this month, a few days ago, so it's getting cold. I think the hot chocolates are going to come out soon, but for now the hot water bottle is going to do the trick. So as I get into the video, I'm just going to keep this stacked up. Today I was planning just to talk a little bit about the movie Phantom Thread. I think it came out in 2017, so it's been around like seven years. Maybe it was 2019. So this is a recent movie, but I've always heard lots about Daniel Day-Lewis being a great actor, but I've never seen him in anything, so it was cool to finally put a name to the face, I guess. And I can see why he gets praised so much. Like you forget that as an actor. I think at first, because he's playing such an unconventional character, like not, I think, someone that is often represented in film, it was hard to believe it initially, but then over time it became almost like the uncanniness added to how vivid this character was. His character's called Reynolds, and if you haven't seen the film, Reynolds is a very well-known, rich, sort of genius dressmaker, and he shows signs of being like perhaps on the spectrum. Like he is, he likes to follow routines very specifically. He I think sometimes shows like struggling in certain social situations, and it's definitely not someone like a type of character that I see represented a lot. So yeah, it took a little while for me to really start believing the performance, but then after a while it just, like, I just could see that as seeing this character as being a real person, like someone that is, on the one hand, this arguably a genius, the way that he's able to craft these garments, but on the other hand, someone that really struggles to connect with people and struggles to adjust, even in cases where I think he wants to, because the film is about this chance encounter he has with a waitress at a cafe. Her name is Alma, I think, and she is very clumsy. She nearly drops several things in the first time he sees her, and he's immediately captivated. He loves, I guess, this her appearance of immaturity, which is kind of ironic, seeing as he's much older, and he doesn't seem to have any problems with having a desire for someone a lot younger than him, but at the same time he is in some ways like similarly immature. So I guess it's maybe not as, like, when you actually watch the two actors perform alongside each other, it doesn't seem so weird, I guess, with the age gap. I think there are other things about the relationship that make it seem strange or unfair or a little, or very uncomfortable at times, but it's not, I don't think, always the age, though it does play into, I guess, this sort of power dynamic. But she sort of gets swept up in his world because he wants her to come back with her to his house, and his house is where they do all of the dressmaking, so it is its own like ecosystem, and it has its strong sort of cast of people who are there, such as Cyril, who is kind of his wife, kind of not. They're not married. I don't know their exact relation. It might have slipped past me, but she, in a way, is sort of like acts like his mother and his wife, who is estranged at the same time, but she's very prevalent. She's there, and so they have this like close connection, and they her and Reynolds pretty much run this dressmaking business themselves, so they are all hands on deck. You know, they're working for these really big clients, and Alma is pretty much just thrusted into that ecosystem and is surrounded by these people that are very crazy about the job, and is probably in a situation that's hard to get out of. But you, through the movie, see her sort of flex to it and adjust to it, and she sort of makes it her own environment, I guess, over time, which is surprising because I think the movie originally makes itself seem as though it's going to be a story about her escaping this crooked power dynamic. But I think even though there's that initial insidiousness, over time, by asserting herself and becoming valuable in the business and becoming something that he needs, like the power kind of balances out and the relationship becomes less fundamentally screwed up. So Phantom Thread is a romantic story, even though it's like very unconventional in that sense. But I guess wanting to bring it up was just because it isn't like anything I've seen, and I did want to just ponder on it a bit because there were a few scenes that really stood out, and I'm pretty desperate to look them up and see what people think and what the ongoing or past discussion was around it. But one scene in particular where he is in bed sick, and for a little bit of context, Alma has given him a small dose of poisonous mushrooms, which is terrible obviously, but the only time that he really shows tenderness is after he has when he's sick, which he discovers and uses to her advantage, because otherwise he's just very emotionally unavailable and does not, like, tries to hide the fact that he needs her. But when he is sick, he's physically and emotionally reliant on her much more, like, expressively, rather than his usual sort of deceitfulness of like, no, get away, like, you're ruining my routine, while at the same time badly needing her to be part of his routine. So it is already an interesting setup, but I mean, don't watch if you don't want spoilers, but I'll put that in the description. Hopefully no one, that doesn't spoil anything too much already. I think the biggest spoiler is what I'm about to say, which is as he is in bed sick and sort of recovering, he hallucinates his mother, and from the start he's set up as this being a very big weakness or a scar that he has, missing his mother, who has, I think, passed or disappeared. She's not in his life anymore, and he's woven her hair into his own suit as a way of keeping her close to him. So she's a big deal, and he has talked about wanting her to be close all the time, but not feeling like she's there. And then suddenly she is there. She's in the room. She's as real as it gets from his perspective. And then it's sort of, the phantom thread from his world to this afterlife. And she isn't saying anything. She's wearing the bridal dress that he made for her, I think, as it goes. And just he has this, like, it's almost like a realization of something that he's already, I think, suggested, that there is this unknown or at least invisible connection to the people that you care about, that he at least thought existed, and now he sees that it exists, even if this is all in his head. But I think my interpretation of the scene is that is sort of confirming that belief to him. And then suddenly Alma enters the room. She's trying to help him get better. She's enjoying that he is more openly needing her. And when she enters, the image of his mother goes away. So, or at least it seems like that. Maybe from his perspective, he's still seeing her, but the way the scene is shot, she disappears. So it is almost like Alma has entered the scene and replaced his mother. So I guess, yeah, there is that psychological thing about whether, yeah, she's stepping into, psychologically for him, his mother's shoes in a way that, but when that happens and that switch occurs, or when she enters in that moment of realization and vulnerability for him, he suddenly allows himself to realize that he needs her and that he has like a really deep affection for her that he wasn't willing to admit before. And so that scene just blew me away. And then I thought things would sort of fall into place from there, but then there is more of a stutter because they don't click. They marry because he's willing to admit his feelings, and even to the extent that he now realizes that he sees her as someone that valuable to him, as someone that he wants to marry. So they get to that stage, but then there's still like jealousy and hold-ups. So nothing's perfect yet, but then when they encounter even more trouble, to spoil even more, she then doses him with these poisonous mushrooms again. And this is the other scene that really stood out to me. And I'd known about this scene before because I took a filmmaking course during undergrad, and one of the other students, I think we were talking about favorite film scenes, and one of the students brought up this scene. So I've been aware of this scene for a while, and the student said, like, this, you need the context because this is just amazing if you see it in the whole film. And I believed them, but I wasn't, I guess, compelled to see it because, yeah, when you see that scene in isolation, you really don't get the whole, the craziness that surrounds it. But the scene essentially is Reynolds realizing that she's poisoning him, and she has probably poisoned him, and not being, not taking that in like a shocking way, but almost as a realization of both her and him, like her desire to want to be there for him and be someone that he can rely on, and his own desire to rely on her. And I guess the poisonous mushrooms, as weird as it is a way for both of them to have the relationship that they want, despite the elephant in the room, which is that Reynolds struggles to let someone be that for him. So he lets her make him sick, and then this thing that was sort of the insidious secret that is hidden and will eventually come out now becomes sort of the most romantic aspect of the film, because they're sort of happy to share in this weird thing. Like they're willing to use it to be something to hinge their romanticism on, I guess. So definitely a better way to put it, but he's willing to be sick, and she wants him to be sick so that she can help him. And it's not clear whether that will become a recurring thing, but at the very least you get the idea that there's now a better understanding between them of what each other wants and how they can be that for each other. So I don't expect like Reynolds' personality to change. I don't think that was the point, but just more finding moments where he can connect with it. And it sort of reminded me of the recent Glen Powell movie, which is where he's playing the philosophy professor who is working as disguised hitman, and because he meets a woman that he likes while in disguise, he sort of falls into the character, and him and the character merge. And to spoil that too, then he does actually end up killing someone, but him and her sort of bond over that murder. It becomes sort of like something that they both are willing to do because of their affection for each other. So in the same vein as the poisonous mushroom, this weird thing, something that is very unconventional to use as a basis of romantic connection, becomes a basis of romantic connection. And so it's a cool inversion that I guess apart from that other movie I haven't really seen before. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and it's sort of I guess maybe it opens up or is a continuation of a genre that I was unaware of, which is, I guess, like relationships that seem very toxic or untenable somehow becoming tenable, and almost, yeah, they've had a past that is malicious, but over the course of the movie becoming innocuous. So it does interest me, like a story that can change the audience's perspective on a relationship and change what that relationship is to become something that maybe the audience can get behind by the end. I think it is like a cool way to play on expectations, but maybe also a good message too, that maybe there is like some redemption or an ability for people who are perhaps like creating toxicity in a relationship, or could be kinder to their partner, that there can be a shift, and that maybe relationships that at first appear stilted and appear like they're not going to work, with enough time and attention, if there is like a genuine care there, that like power dynamics can even out, and there can become like a better foundation, and these more sort of toxic elements can be overcome. So yeah, that is, I guess, is probably a bit of an unintentional spin, but I do like it as a story of a relationship sort of losing its toxicity over time. But yeah, I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, be interesting to hear what you might think based on that, or yeah, if you have seen it, what your thoughts were from the film. I know it's been a while, so yeah, if you need a refresher, I don't blame you. I'll put one in the description, just a little plot synopsis. But yeah, that was day 12. Thank you for following along.